Let's move on. Acting Special Minister of State Gary Gray today said that the Commonwealth would cover former Speaker Peter Slipper's legal costs after what was found by the federal court to have been a politically motivated court case against him. Do you support that decision by the government?
Well, we think Kevin Rudd needs to answer some questions about this. Firstly, this must have been a cabinet decision, so Kevin Rudd obviously believes that Peter Slipper's legal fees should be paid. Only a few months ago, Nicola Roxon said that the legal fees would not be paid, and that if a suggestion was made by Peter Slipper's legal team that the Commonwealth pay them, that they would decline to make that payment. But since the Prime Ministership's changed a fortnight ago, something seems to have happened, because Kevin Rudd has obviously agreed that Peter Slipper's legal fees should be paid by the taxpayer. We also want to know, does that mean Craig Thompson's legal fees will also be paid?
Well,
by
no,
the
Gary Gray
taxpayer?
made the caveat that this was because it was politically motivated lawsuit and that could damage democracy.
Well, that seems very much to be in the eye of the beholder from the government.
Well, no, that was the federal court decision.
Well, usually there is a rule that either applies or doesn't apply, Emma. You can't have the Cabinet or the Prime Minister, in this case, making unilateral decisions to simply pay the legal fees of people who sit on the crossbenches because they've decided that a legal case, which is under appeal, I should point out to you, by Mr Ashby's lawyers, as well as Mr Ashby, is somehow politically motivated. The truth is that Kevin Rudd needs to explain, in all this talking and travelling around in supermarkets and primary schools that he does, rather than actually getting on with governing, he needs to be asked the question, why does he think Peter Slipper's legal fees should be paid by the Australian taxpayer, and will that be extended to Craig Thompson? And when was his first discussion with Mr Slipper about the payment of his legal fees? Was it before he was Prime Minister, or was it during the period he was stalking Julia Gillard, or has it been since he was the Prime Minister?
Still on Mr Slipper, there appears to have been a disparity in treatment between Peter Slipper and Tony Abbott with regards to misclaimed expenses. Is it clear to you why Mr Abbott was able to simply pay back his $9,400 that he mistakenly claimed, and yet Mr Slipper is being pursued through the courts for $900, which is less than 10 times that?
Well, I think the point is there that the department makes those decisions about which mistakes should be pursued and which ones shouldn't. I mean, sometimes there is an inadvertent error, and over the years people have been asked to pay that back. It's happened on hundreds of occasions where someone's overpaid $180 or $9,000, and the department follows them up. In the case of Mr Slipper, the department has made a decision, which is a matter for them, not for me, that there might be some intent involved rather than a mistaken error of judgment, and that's probably why they're pursuing him in the courts. But that's a matter they'll explain in the courts.
2 weeks into his renewed leadership,